to see John?
Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Motion to approve the agenda. Rob, second. Mike, Casito. All in favor? 6-0. Right on to resolutions. Questions or comments on the 4 options before the board?
Looking at this document, we got Tuesday night.
Mike?
I'm sorry. Sorry about that, Jan. Hear me now?
Yep.
I'm looking at this document here that we got on Tuesday night. It says projected cost available for bids. And it's just under $20 million. Okay. Yet I'm looking at these other 4 entities. Some of them are over $20 million. So where do I find the extra funds to meet that requirement?
Can I answer?
Sure.
Okay. When you're looking at scenario 1, scenario 1 shows that there's a shortfall of a little bit more than $900,000. The thought with that is, of that $900,000, there's $360,000 worth of allowance money that is built into the bid. And there's also a little bit less than $1 million worth of still available construction contingency money. The thinking right now today is that the possibility of having to use the full construction contingency as well as the entire allowance is very, very limited. They do not believe that maybe we're going to use half. You know, the current running joke is, if we find a Indian burial ground, then there's going to be a problem. So we don't anticipate to use the entire amount of available construction contingency or the allowance money.
Okay.
So if you were to add those 2 together, it's around $1.4 million. That would bring that project, which is currently $900,000 shortfall, you now have available $600,000. So the number that you just looked at, available versus not available, does not take into consideration the full construction contingency or any of the built-in allowance money.
Okay. I'm just trying to make heads or tails out of the 4 different entities, because some of them, the numbers are virtually the same throughout all 4 entities.
They are the same because the low bidder does not change. The only, if we discuss the 4 scenarios, scenario number 1 is the base bid without any alternates attached to it.
Right.
That means everything that was outlined inside of the bond is done, in addition to items that were discovered during the design process as additional items, such as the Wading River septic system in front of the building. It would have been silly to put a new parking lot over a 40-year-old septic system. So there were changes for that. So there were other add-ons, which is also called scope creep as part of the development process, and that's what makes up part of that $900,000. And that's why there is design contingencies, construction contingencies, escalation contingencies built into that price.
Okay.
Thanks.
Sure. Go ahead if you have questions.
Go ahead, you can go ahead.
No, I'm good.
Does anybody, any other questions, comments? I'm in favor of option number 2, which was the base bid plus the concrete ballads at the 2 schools, together with infilling the skylight and leaders and gutters, which was the recommendation of the Space and Facility Committee.
Which was what, John?
The recommendation of the Space and Facility Committee, which met on Monday night.
The 927, that additional aid money,
Yes.
How
The
long?
additional aid money?
Yeah,
Okay,
Building
the additional state aid money, you begin to receive your first payment on any state aid money after what's called a certificate of substantial completion has been filed, meaning the work is 95-98% finished. 12 months after that, you begin to get your first payment. The payments are made over a 10-year period. So if you were to use the $936,000, let's say you're getting $93,000 per year. For these particular projects, I am hoping to be at certificate of substantial completion by October 1st of 2017. That means October 1st, 2018, it gets into their budget. We see it in 1920's revenue for the school year. So
that's
the
what I-
earliest you're seeing the first state aid payment on any of these projects is 1920.
Okay.
That's why early on, you make your bond
you mean
payments.
2020.
Yes,
Okay,
yeah, correct.
School year 2019, 2020.
yeah,
You're right.
okay.
But that's why your bond payments, we begin to make the bond payments
Okay.
now, and we aren't seeing any of the revenue attached to it come in yet.
Okay.
I don't know the best way to do this. You want to vote on each option?
You want to see where we
Come up to
all
a consensus
stand?
and vote on that one
I
option?
think consensus is fine. I mean, looking at them, I mean, 3 or 4 might make some sense, but I think that it's too big a gamble.
Yes.
And I'm not sure how the plans actually fit the building. I haven't seen that part, whether it actually works to make that corridor. And all if I have, I couldn't find it. So I would
Can
stick
you
with
go?
2. I'm sorry. So I don't know how 3 and 4 work within the building footprint. I haven't seen any of the drawings to make it real, make sure that it works. I mean, I'm sure it does, but I just rather play safe and go with the one, the Space and Facilities recommended, perhaps the second alternate option.
Yeah, I'd be inclined to go that way.
I'm leaning to that second option, just because of the explanation that Glenn gave about the aid. That cleared some things up. The contingency, I just don't feel comfortable spending all that additional money in option 3 and 4 with not a guarantee that all that is going to be available.
So simply, Glenn, if we were to do option 3 or 4, there could be a chance that some of the work on the back end of the bond would not be able to get done.
I think it's very important to point out, Roger felt that if everything went the way that he thinks that it could go, where we kept the scope of work tight, we don't have any type of scope creep in any of the remaining work, that he felt with the available contingencies, you might be able to do it all. That's what he said on Tuesday.
Right.
It's very important for me to look at and say, the projects that we've had, because we did not have a very tight scope of work inside the original bond, we have had scope creep to date in every project that we've done. The high school has less interior renovation, so we do anticipate less scope creep, but there's no way of actually knowing. The thought is, the only thing that we know for certain, we would be going, we are at a $2 million shortfall if we went with option 4, based on what was available for the Wading River and Miller Avenue projects. That is the only number for certain that we do know, but it is important to know there's still available contingency on the back end, and that the architect felt there was a comfort for him with a staying tight to the original scope that's outlined for the remaining work, he would be able to make it work.
And for me, the operative word in all of that was might.
Well, regardless of money, just so I'm clear, and correct me if I'm wrong, but the current administration in the building doesn't feel like the plan is necessary to move forward with for the alterations, for the alternates. If it was free, it's still not the best plan that they want.
That is my understanding.
Okay.
Yes. That is my understanding, yes.
They don't think number 4 is necessary.
They don't think,
They don't think
based
three or
on,
three.
they don't think 3 or
Three or
4
four.
is necessary.
They live in the building, not me, so I'm inclined to go along with that judgment.
Should we vote?
Do we give it a number? And
Well,
then vote?
we're gonna have
If
to
we're going
put
for
it on the
two?
next resolution number and, well,
Yeah.
do we have consensus on number 2?
Sounded like it.
I don't know about that.
I'm in favor of two.
Why don't we do a
Mike, you're
vote
not
call?
voting, right?
What?
Why don't we do a
I
roll
can't,
call?
just one of the, I can't put one.
Yeah, we're gonna have to, but you can pick an option, right?
Yeah,
You are allowed to offer your opinion.
yeah, absolutely.
We
Let's
value
let's
it,
do a
so
roll call.
please
I
do.
think we should do a roll call.
All right, I'm in favor of
For
2.
option 2. So, Mr. Zukowski, yes. Rob Rose, yes.
Yes.
Kimberly?
Yes.
Mike?
Yes.
Okay.
So now do we give this the next resolution number and
Yep.
just number them consecutively?
116. So I'm just going to read these.
Okay.
Just to make sure we're all on the same page. Everybody want to go to option 2? Resolution number 116, approval of bid award for additions and alterations at Miller Avenue and Wading River Elementary Schools to VRD Contracting, Inc. for the general construction. The base bid, I'm not going to read the whole thing, but I'll just, the base bid is $13,350,000 with 2 alternates, one, add alternate number 4 for $22,000, add alternate number 6 for $22,000, total bid $13,394,000. Resolution number 1617-117, approval of bid award for additions and alterations at Miller Avenue and Wading River Elementary Schools to Moore Consulting Corporation for the roof construction at Miller Avenue Elementary School. Base bid was $928,000 with 1 alternate, number 1, for $9,500, total bid $937,500. Resolution number 118, approval of bid award for additions and alterations at Miller Avenue and Wading River Elementary Schools to Long Island Roofing and Repair Service Corp. for the roof construction at Wading River Elementary School. Base bid was $605,000 with 1 add alternate, number 1, for $4,000, total bid for $609,000. Resolution 119, approval of bid award for additions and alterations at Miller Avenue and Wading River Elementary Schools to Premier Mechanical Services for the mechanical construction. Base bid, $3,185,400. There are no add alternates, so the total bid award is $3,185,400. Resolution number 120, approval of bid award for additions and alterations at Miller Avenue and Wading River Elementary Schools to ARA Plumbing Corp. for the plumbing construction at Miller Avenue Elementary School. Base bid was $342,817. There are no add alternates, so the total bid is $342,817. Resolution number 121, approval of bid award for additions and alterations at Miller Avenue and Wading River Elementary Schools to Hirsch and Company LLC for the plumbing construction at Wading River Elementary School. Base bid is $599,000. There are no add alternates, so the total bid is $599,000. And resolution number 122, approval of bid award for additions and alterations at Miller Avenue and Wading River Elementary Schools to JVR Electric, Inc. for the electrical construction. Base bid is $1,880,776 with no add alternates. Total bid is $1,880,776.
Thanks, guys. 1 second.
First resolution to include this meeting, and this one,
Just the first one?
because that's general contract. Right now, it's all out of January 2015 voter approved.
Okay, so resolution number 116 needs to be revised to include the first paragraph where it says, whereas the January 13th, 2015 voter approved capital projects, we need to add 2014-15 transfer to capital fund, and 2012 health and safety proposition, and 2016-17 transfer to capital fund. The work is coming out of all of those funds, not just the bond money.
Let me just explain that the health and safety proposition from 2012 contained funding to stop the flooding of the Wading River Library. It was deemed that the available funding for that, which was $50,000, was not enough funding to remedy the problem. So we added that $50,000 to the bond work that had a price ticket on it to solve the drainage issue inside of the courtyard there. The 2015-16 budget contained
I hope we have to spend 20 million.
funding to do ADA repairs, hand doorknobs, various different ADA compliance issues at both Miller Avenue and Wading River Building. And the 2016-17 budget contained transfer to capital of $300,000 in order to support the Wading River kitchen equipment purchase, which was not part of the bond. So all three of those items are all general contractor related items. So the funding needs for the resolution 116 for vendor VDR, the funding for that 13 million plus comes from the bond referendum, a portion out of the 2012 health and safety proposition, a portion out of 2015-16 transfer to capital, and a portion out of the 2016-17 transfer to capital.
I'm glad you caught that.
This says
I think it should be in
14-15
there.
transfer to capital, you just said 15-16.
I apologize, 2014-15 transfer to capital.
That is, you are correct. I'm correct there.
I wasn't correct when I spoke.
Mike, is there one you gotta abstain from?
Yes, the first one.
First one? So let's do that one, and then we'll do the rest. Motion to approve resolution 1617-116 as revised. Bill, second. Kimberly, all in favor? All opposed? All abstained? 501. Okay, take the rest as a group. Motion to approve resolution 1617-117 through 1617-122. Mike Lucido, second. Bob Rose, all in favor? 6-0. Any comments?
Thank you for coming.
Motion to adjourn?
Do we have to?
Can I just make a-
Yeah, sure.
throw something out there? Is there any way for the beginning, you know how the beginning of the school year, I know that one's supposed to be bringing this up, the beginning of the school year, people get sent all this paperwork to fill out. Is there any way we could start to work to maybe make that paperless? You gotta fill out the blue cards and all that health stuff.
The back-to-school packet.
Yeah,
What do you want to know about? I can't hear you.
Paperless.
Paperless.
we can go paperless with that?
Put it on your iPad.
I have them.
Put it on your iPad.
The answer is no.
The answer is no.
I would think so.
Because currently, we are required to mail things home because residents are not required to have email addresses. There is no requirement. So there are certain things we have to mail home. If we wanted to reduce the bulk mailing, we had addressed this back in 2012, you weren't a board member then, where we pulled back and changed. We would only send one of something to a family if there were 4 kids in that family, so they didn't get redundant bus routes, they didn't get redundant things. We did that for that year, it was not well received, and then we came back to everyone gets everything. So it can be revisited, but electronically, since there's no guarantee that every person has an email address, they're guaranteed they have an address because that's how the residency works. That's why we mail things home.
Gotcha.
But it could be looked at if we wanted to revisit again the parsing out for grades and accumulating by family. That's an option. It does cost you more in postage when you accumulate by family.
Just put it on discussion agenda.
Yeah, I mean,
That's fine. They want another discussion in the future.
Somewhere. where it fits.
For the summer? No.
After the holiday.
Oh, okay.
During winter break.
March,
January,
somebody call me?
January.
January?
Motion to adjourn? Mike Lewis, second. Mike Faceto, all in favor? 6-0. Thank you, everyone.